So now we're ready to start changing our strings. We have our strings, our clippers, our peg winder, or our powered peg winder, either one. We have our electronic tuner, we have our polish and polish cloth, and of course we have our guitar. Step one is going to be to take the old strings off, and it does matter how you do it. Some people say you should only do one string at a time. That's ridiculous. You're going to take all 6 strings off the guitar. But first, we're going to have to loosen them. Don't take the strings off before you loosen them. We take our peg winder, we put it on the peg, we hit the string and make sure it's going down in pitch. And we just loosen it up, 6 or 7 or 8 winds, and it's loose like this, totally loose. Okay, you see, that's what you want. Now we go to the A string, do the same thing. Same thing, totally loose. And the D string. And so forth. Now we come around to this side. We want to get the high E. Now we know what direction to go in because we have the pitch going down. The pitch is going up, you're tightening the string and you're going to break it. Okay, it's a little looser. We want these totally loose, so I'll put a little extra on, a little extra loosey. So now we have the strings so loose that you can pick them up and pull them out of the nut. You know, they're totally slack. I recommend that we take our wire cutters and we take the 5 highest strings and we group them at the 12th fret at the double dots, and we cut them there. Why only 5? Because if you add the 6th one, it's so thick, it makes it too hard to cut. So I saved that for a separate cut. Okay, good. So now all 6 strings have been cut at the 12th fret. First, you want to go to your headstock and start with the top string by the top of the headstock nearest you. That should come out real easy. Then the next one, just unwind them and pull them out. If they don't come out, it's because somebody did some weird string changing tie the last time they put strings on, and you might have to take your pliers and cut through the old knot to get it out. And that does happen from time to time. But when you put the strings on, you're not going to do any weird knots. So now this side of the headstock, same thing. We're going to unwind and pull it off. These 2 strings, the highest 2, are the ones that usually have a knot if the others don't. These ones almost always do. But here we're running into some good luck. These are just coming right off. This one had a weird knot in it, but I pulled it off. Okay, so now I have all 6 strings and I tap them so they're about the same length. I'm just going to put those down for a second. Now we're going to take the other 6 halves of string off the guitar. I use the string clippers for this, but very gingerly, very gently, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the pins out of the bridge, the pins that hold the strings into the bridge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to gently use my string clippers to cradle the pin. And I'm going to pull up on the pin by pushing down on the bridge saddle, like so. And that pulls the pin right up out. We can put our pin down. That's pin number 1. It does matter which pins go where. So when you pull the pins out, put them somewhere in order so you know which pin to put back in the same hole. The reason this is important is because the different thickness of strings wears a groove in the pin. And you want the most exact fit you can get. So you want to keep those pins on their unique strings. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same thing with the B string. I gingerly put it around the peg, and then I push down on the saddle, and boom, out comes my pin. That's pin number 2. Then the 3rd string, same thing. might not need to put much pressure. The pins might not be very tight, but sometimes the pins are very tight and you need that fulcrum of the saddle to pop them out. Okay, so there's my 6 pins. Here's my other 6 strings. Now they all came right out of the hole. Sometimes they don't come out of the hole. Sometimes you might need to go in there. But at any rate, you want all 6 of these. Now we're going to take all 6 of these and we're going to take the other 6 and put them so that they're roughly all the same length. And now we're just going to tie a knot. And this knot makes all the waste of the old set of strings into one piece of waste. Unless you want to save it, you could put it in a nice planter, and just think of all the guitar playing you did on these strings. Or you can throw them away. This is a great time to clean your guitar. Your guitar is covered in greasy, dusty grossness from the outside world, from your fingers and hands, from rust, from the universe expanding, everything. Okay, so once the strings are all off is really the only time to get in the hard to reach places. So what we're going to do is we're going to reach for our guitar polish and our cloth. If you don't have a legitimate guitar cloth, sure, an old t-shirt or something would do, but it's got to be soft. Now we take our polish and we just spray a little on the guitar, like so. I like to put a little on the neck as well. So you see just a little, put a little on the headstock. I'm going to do the fretboard because I want to use the little clean section of the cloth here. And plus I want the fretboard to have some time to dry out. So I'm going to do it first. So what I'm doing is just going with the grain of the wood and just cleaning the fretboard. This is where you touch the most. And already I'm getting a lot of residue on the cloth. So we want to go with the grain of the wood. And the first 4 or 5 frets, we spend a lot of time on those frets. So you want to make sure you get it nice and clean. And we got a lot off. I take the cloth and put it around my fingernail a little bit so I can get right up against the frets on either side. And you see, that gives you a nice little line of yucky goo that was on there. Same thing on this one. Another line of yucky goo. And this one. And this one. So you might want to just do this, keep this going. As you get up the frets, of course, these are places you visit less. And so it doesn't really require the exact same scrutiny. But here we go. Okay, now I haven't cleaned these frets up here yet. But the frets get closer together as you go up the neck, so at some point you can't really go with the grain anymore. You pretty much just have to do the old cross cut. And so that's what we do with the higher frets. We just give a nice wipe down and change to a different place on the rag every couple of frets, every few frets, whatever. And you want to polish the frets too. Don't skimp on. Don't just do the wood. Get the fret crownings as well. You just want to clean this whole surface area. Okay, I got quite a lot off of there. I'm going to go back to my thumbnail and just get each side right up against the bottom of the fret. That's what I'm doing. And just getting the residue that ends up gunked right up where the fret meets the wood. And this will feel real good on the hands when you're ready to play. Okay, so there's our fretboard. Now that'll dry while we're working on the rest of the guitar. Now we're going to take another clean side of the rag. We're just going to wipe that misting of polish into the guitar. We're getting all the dust off. Look at the dust on the bridge area. Yuck. And you can't really get under those strings to clean them very easily, and it's never fun trying to clean your guitar with strings on it. So I'm getting using the fingernail trick, getting all the edges around the bridge and around the pick guard as well. Okay, so now we've basically wiped all the easy low-hanging fruit, the dust and things like that, off the guitar. And now I flip to another clean portion of the rag and I buff. Now we're just going to buff this out. I use the Martin guitar polish. I've been using it since I was 14. The reason I started using it back then was because it had a reputation for being the only polish that doesn't add a waxy substance to the mix. And the guitar has plenty of waxy goo all over it to begin with. It doesn't need help from the polish. So the Martin polish cuts through the waxy buildup, the goo on the guitar, and gets you a nice finish shine when you do the buffing stage. So there's the buff. Okay, now up here, back to just wiping the polish in and using it to just get all the dust and dirt off of here. I'm going to get in around the pegs, the stems, like so. Okay, and again we go to a nice dry area of the towel and we come in and we buff it out. Okay. Okay, this guitar, the nut just comes right out. The glue is let go over the ears, but the strings hold it in. We're also going to clean and polish the back and sides of the guitar, and it would just be more of the same. Sprayment of the stuff, and then wipage of said stuff, and while the cloth is nice and wet, let's get the sides. Like so. All the dust comes off. Very pretty. And we just buff it. Nice, soft, light strokes. And it just brings the guitar to a nice shine. And that's all you need to do. Get the back of the heel here, and of course the back of the neck. Super important to get the back of the neck because that's your playing feel right there. The guitar has been cleaned. Now the guitar is ready to be restrung. We've already talked in the opening about why they have to be elixir strings for an acoustic guitar. If you're not using elixir strings, you're wasting your time. So you just want to make sure the numbers are descending. 53, 42, 32, 24, 16, 12. Okay. Every once in a while, they'll be in the wrong order, and I won't realize it till I've put the wrong string on the wrong peg. It's very bad. So make sure they're in the right order. You're ready to put your first string on. We're going to start with the low side, the low E string. So we pull it out of the package, and you see how the string is wound in a circle with each end sort of doubled over the circle. So all you got to do is take each end out like that, like, you know, once outside its circle, and the string will just pop right out like so. Now I want to talk to you about this end of the string, the ball end of the string. It's got a brass barrel on the end of it. This is the part that's going to go in the hole. The pins are going to hold the barrel in the hole so that the string stays put and you can tune it. When you tune the string, you're putting all kinds of tight pressure on it. If you were to just put the string into the hole like this, and then put the pin in, what would happen inside is this. There's a groove on the pin that lines up with the string. If you can see that. If the barrel hits the bottom of the pin and stays there, it gets stuck there like that, then you go and tighten the string to tune it. You're putting all that pressure of the tight string on the very tip of the pin, and it pushes on it. And it pushes and pushes, and then all of a sudden, poing, it pops right out of the hole and blinds members of the audience. So, for the safety of your audience, what we do is we're going to bend the end of this just a little bit. And again, I'm going to use my trusty clippers, but I'm not clipping. I'm not tightly even doing this. I'm very gently doing this. I'm just going to take and bend the bottom of that string just like so. Okay, so like that. All right. Now here's what good that's going to do me. Now when I put the string into the hole, once I go like this, now the bottom of the string, instead of being straight down in the hole, is going over like this. So that's how the string's going to look inside the guitar. And when I go to put my pin in, the groove in the pin will accept the bend of the string, and it'll nestle the barrel right into the groove of the pin on the side of the pin, where it'll eventually lodge. And instead of putting, when you tune, all the pressure of a tuned string on the tip of the pin, it instead puts it in the middle of the side of the pin. It transfers the vibration of the string, and therefore your tone and your volume and your sound, into the pin for transmission into the bridge and into the body of the guitar. So this is just a better way to put your strings and pins together in the holes of the bridge. And again, this is only for those of you that have pin bridge systems, which is most of you. But as we talked about in the opening, some bridges don't use pins. They use holes that go this way, and you just put those strings through the holes, kind of like in an electric guitar. But this is just pin logic that I'm discussing with the bent string. If you don't have pins, you don't have to bend your string. I'm going to put the bent string in the hole. This is the low E string. I put it in and I stand it up. So now the barrel is pointed that way. I take my pin and I put the groove side of the pin on the string. And I don't push the pin down all the way. I let it just sort of float right where it wants to stop. And then I kind of just tug on the string a little bit until I can feel the barrel in the groove of the pin, which you can just feel. And once you do that, you can tell that the barrel is right under the hole. It's not at the tip of the pin. It's well into the groove of the pin. So now I can take and push my pin down. Boom. Now the barrel of the string is nestled right in the sweet spot of the pin, and it's going to stay put. Don't worry about pushing this down, too hard. Just push it down so it's snug. We're going to come back and check it later. Okay, so now we're going to run the string all the way up to the tuners. Now, the strings want to go from the middle of the headstock to the outside of the headstock. So if you've got 3 and 3, as most acoustics do, you're going to want to put your strings into the posts from the middle of the headstock. So for the 3 that are on this side, we're going to come from the middle of the headstock this way. So I find that it helps to get your posts to where the hole runs through the post this way. I'm a little off, it's not totally east and west, in other words, so that it goes east-west. So you're coming up like this, and it goes through the post like that in a sort of an east-west style. Now, how far in do you go is very important. You want to wind the string as many times as possible. That's what keeps the guitar in tune. It improves the transfer of energy and vibration from the string to the guitar. So it's a tone issue as well. You don't want to just have no slack in the string, wind it once, and expect to stay in tune, because you won't. So what I find works is to get up about this high, and this is about, 4 inches or so, maybe 5 inches, whatever. And you can tell by going to the middle of the string, I guess the apex, and pulling, that's where you want to have, a good 5 inches. If you do, now you're ready to bend the string. So we have our slack, and we're going to hold the part of the string that we're keeping, this part, in one hand. And we're going to hold the part of the string that we're going to cut off in the other hand. And we're going to move both hands in opposite directions at the same time, like this. 1, 2, 3, boom. Okay, so now we've put a 90-degree angle on both sides of the post on the string. So we've bent the string at a 90-degree angle on both sides of the post. So that right there holds the string in place, to a degree. So now we're going to wind our string. Here's your trusty peg winder. And what we're going to do is hold the string, the slack, in these 3 fingers, and use the pointer finger and the thumb as a more focused string holder up close to the post. So you see I have the slack in these 3 fingers, and then the thumb and the first finger up close to the post, because I want to guide the string around the post as I wind. So we wind. Now what you want is for each wind to go under the previous wind. So I've come around. Now you can see I'm coming around to where the string is sticking out. I want to go under that. So I use my first finger to push down on the string, so the string goes under where the string is sticking out of the post. Okay, now I keep winding, and soon enough the other side of the post comes around, and we see the string sticking out of the hole. I want to go under that. So I push down with my first finger, and I push the string under the previous wind. And I keep doing that. So I'm kind of pulling up on the string with these 3 fingers and pushing down on the string with the first finger, so that I can guide the string to the lower position on the post as I wind. Now I'm not going to tune the string. It's very slack, but it is taut. Not tight, but it is taut. When I look at it and see, I can see that I've got about 2.5 winds. I'd like to see 3. So maybe that 5 inches should have been 6 inches. You never know, guitar to guitar, there's all different heights of the posts. But I'll take 2.5. I'm not going to undo the string, because that's very bad. Once you wind the string, you should never undo it. Okay, so now we're going to take our next string and repeat the process. Here's the A string. Here's the 2 ends of it that are wrapped around the circle. We just undo each of those, and voila, the string pops right out. Here's our string end. Here's my string cutters, but I'm just gently going to grab this. I'm not trying to cut it. I just want to bend it. There we go. I'm going to come over and get my A string pin, because I remember which one's which. I'm going to put the string into the hole that way, and then stand it up, which pushes the barrel a good ½ inch away from the hole. I take the groove end, the groove part of the pin that has the groove in it, and I align the groove with the string, okay? And I put it in gently into the hole. I'm not going to push down. I can feel the barrel on the tip of the post. So I give it I tug on the string a little, and I feel the barrel come right up and nestle in the ridge of the groove of the pin. So now I feel it's right underneath the hole. I can go ahead and push down on that. And now I just bring my string back up here. I'm gonna tuning machine until I have a more of an east-west type hole, and I'm going to just use the tip of the string to feel around for the hole. You use the very tip of the string to sort of feel around for the hole, and then when you find it and it goes, we want it to go in like an east-west fashion this way. Okay, so now this is a little thinner string than the 6th string was, so it'll wrap around the post a little more anyway. But I'm going to give it a little more slack than I did the other string. Probably about 5.5 inches, looks like. Okay, so again, I got the east-west thing going here, and I'm going to hold the string I'm keeping in one hand. I got 3 fingers around the slack. I got my first finger and thumb up near the post. I have my other hand holding the part of the string that I'm going to cut off. 1, 2, 3, boom. I make a nice 90-degree bend on either side of the post. So that starts the string, you know, already into its life of staying put. It's time to wind again. This might be a nice time to break out our electronic string winder. Again, 3 fingers holding the slack, thumb and first finger focused in on holding the string close to the post, pushing down with my first finger, pulling up with my 3 slack fingers. I'm going to gently give this a squeeze and see which direction I'm going. I was going in the wrong direction. Now I'll go the other direction. Okay, so the battery-powered device will turn the peg quicker than your hand winder. So you want to make sure you got your first finger articulating the path of the string. Under, 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 under. As it starts to tighten, you just pull it off. You can finish with one of these a little bit. Okay, again, that's slack. It's taut, but it's certainly not tuned to pitch. I'm going to wait on that. Now when I pull it up and look at it, I see, well, I got about 2.5 on that one as well. I guess it's a 2.5 day. But each wind is under. So there's a wind, then another wind, and then another wind. You want the winds to get closer to the face of the headstock as they increase in number. Now we're on the D string. Here we go. We just take the string out of the circle on each end and voila. Now by the time you get to the D string, the strings are getting pretty thin, so I really don't even need to use my string clippers to make the bend. I can just use my fingernail. The reason I don't want to do that on the thicker strings is because I don't want to hurt my fingernail. So now I have the D string, I have the D pin, and I just pop the string in the hole and I stand it up to get the barrel out of the way. Then I put the groove side of the pin up against the string and I just gently work it into the hole. I can feel the tip of the pin on the barrel of the string. If I up and down a little bit, jiggle it, I feel it come right up and nestle into the groove of the pin. And when it's right underneath the hole on the inside, I know it's not going to go any farther. That's when I push the pin down. Again, not too hard, just, you know, enough to be snug. Now we bring the D string up here. Some people don't like having these waving around. It doesn't bother me. I'm going to cut them all off together in the end. But if it bothers you and you want to cut these each off individually, go right ahead. I'm going to come up here now and feel around for the hole with the tip of the string. I was able to find it without even looking. But I'm going to turn the peg until I have the east-west thing I want because of the bend I'm about to do. That's why the east-west. So now, you know, this is an even thinner string. It's going to go around the post a little more, so you don't need a ton more slack. But I'm going to go ahead. That's got to be 6 inches of slack right there. Okay, and I'm going to pull down on the side of the string I'm keeping, pull up on the side I'm going to cut off. I've got my 3 fingers and my thumb and first finger on one side, and I've got my same setup on the other side. 1, 2, 3. Boom, there's my nice 90-degree bend on both sides of the post. Okay, so I'm holding the slack in these 3 fingers, holding it up. See how up it is? And then I'm pushing down with my first finger, using the thumb to stabilize the string. I got my string winder. I'm going to start winding. Whoops, other way. Under, 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 under. Each time it comes around a hole, you want to make sure you're going under the previous wind. You can see we're getting a lot more winds. Okay. You just heard a noise perhaps down there. That was the bridge pin popping out a little bit as the string got tighter. That's okay. So now I'm just going to tighten by hand a little bit to keep this from popping out. I want it tight enough so that it's not, popping out of the wind. When I say taut but not tight, I mean tight enough so that the string stays wound. You don't want the string windings to come loose once you've wound them. Okay, so that's the tightness you want on your wind. Okay, so now I have to go back down here and just push this pin back in. That's all, because it popped out a little. Now when I look at this wind, oh boy, that's a beauty. I have 3.5 winds. It almost goes all the way down to the base of the post. And the reason that's important is because we want to get as much of the string on the winder, on the post as we can. We want to get as much of an angle over the nut. That's why the headstock is tilted backwards. We want to have the string angle over the nut and go down to the posts. So we've got our 3 bass strings. Now we're going to do our 3 treble strings. Here's the G string. I just take and do my thing with it. Now it's nice and loose. I'm not going to need the pliers to bend it. I'm just going to do that by hand over my thumbnail. Boom. Okay. Now I'm going to put it in the hole. I already have the pin. I put the string in the hole, then I stand it up. That gets the barrel out of the way of the pin. Now I take the pin and making sure that the groove side of the pin is up against the string, I push the pin gently into the hole. I can feel the tip of the pin hitting the barrel, but when I jerk it back and forth a little bit, I feel it the barrel come right up and nestle into the groove of the pin. Okay, so once I feel that, I know it's right where it needs to be. I just push the pin in gently. Everything's beautiful. Yeah, come up here now. We're on the other side of the headstock now. These 3 tuning pegs turn the other way, and the other 3 did to tighten the string. But I'm still going to come from the middle of the headstock to the outside, which is now on the other side. So I take the tip of the string and I look for my hole on the post, and it's not in an east-west location, so I turn my peg until I can get it in an east-west sort of fashion, and there it is. I feel the hole so I can go through, but again I'm going to put it so where it's more perpendicular. This is a much thinner string than the other 3 were, so it's going to go around the post more. So that's about, that looks like about 6 inches to me. I'm going to come up here. I'm holding with 3 fingers, the part of the string I'm going to keep, and my first finger and thumb on the same side of the string. Then I take the part of the string I'm going to cut off on the other side, and I give it the old 1, 2, 3. Okay, and now I've got a nice 90-degree bend on either side of the post. Okay, so now since we're on the other side of the headstock, we sort of have to switch hands. So I'll start with your hand winder, since that's what most of you probably have. Now look what I'm doing. Now I'm doing the job that was done with these other 3 fingers before, and then pushing the string down like that. Now I'm doing it with the other hand. I'm using the thumb to hold up on the strings, and my 3rd finger to push down on it. Okay, but it's the same concept. You want to take up the slack and you want to guide the string on the other close to the post. So now I'm going to just gently turn this here, and I'm going to wait for the string to come around, and I'm going to make sure that I wind under the hole. And now comes the other side of the string. I'm going to go under. Okay, from time to time, especially on these high strings, where you're going to do a lot more winds, you need to stop and take a fingernail and just kind of go to the bottom wind and just loosen the slack a little and pull up on the winds. Tuck them all up underneath each other to make room for another wind or two. Now I do another. And this finger, the Band-Aid on it, is guiding the string underneath each previous wind. So now that's about, you can hear how loose that is. It's tight enough to keep the wind in place, but it's certainly not in tune. Okay, I'm not tightening them that much yet. Okay, so that's all 4 wound strings, the strings that have a winding on them. Now we're down to just the 2 unwound strings. Now the unwound strings are slippy. They're very slippy because there's no windings on them. So it's really important that you get as many winds as you can on the unwound string. The more winds, the more the string stays put, which means you stay in tune. Okay, so now I did my fingernail thing. I made a little bend in the barrel. Here's my B string pin. I'm going to take my string and put it in the hole. There it goes. Here comes the pin with the groove side right up against the string, where the string goes into the groove. I can feel the tip of the pin, and there's the head of the barrel. And if I just move it around and jiggle it a little bit, I feel it come up a little and snug right into the groove of the pin. So, boom. Now, this is where most people tie some stupid knot because of the slippiness of the high strings, of the unwound strings. And it's just not a good idea. Who taught me this is Danny Gatton, the great Telecaster master, who said, much better tone with more winds. He said, you don't need any stupid knot. Just put as many winds as the peg will hold, as the post will hold. And that's worked for me for many years. So now I have, about, looks like six inches or so there. I'm gonna come up here and do my bends. Here we go. I'm holding the part of the string I'm gonna keep and the part I'm gonna cut off. And I'm using my first fingers to get close to the post. And now I'm just gonna put the pressure on the first fingers when I make the move. 1, 2, 3, boop. There we go. Okay, so now I got a nice 90-degree bend on either side of the post. And it just holds the string right into the post. So right there, you're doing yourself a big favor on string slippage and going out of tune. I'm gonna use my thumb to hold the slack, and my third or second or whatever finger you want to, or several fingers to hold the string taut going into the post. Okay, now I have my handy winder. So you see my hand motion, I'm ready to wind. I'm gonna feed the string with this part of my finger around the, around the post. Under, and I'm holding it down almost to the face of the headstock. Now I'm stopping, I'm gonna go with my fingernail and just, gently pull up on those winds. Sometimes you can use 2 fingernails if you can get them in there. And you might have to loosen the slack ever so slightly with the other hand. And then you feel, okay, I got all the winds pulled up now against each other, nice and snug. And it clears the way for another couple of winds. Under, I'm running out of space. Okay, got my thumb stuck into there. Okay, now that is in there. I'm going to tighten it just a little more because, again, if it's too loose and you let go, the wind will come loose. And that's horrible because then they could cross over each other. You don't ever want the winds to cross over each other. If a string does that, you're done. Take it off and put a new one on. So there we go. Now I'm going to check out the wind. Oh yeah, it's beautiful. I got 5 wraps around the post, each one of them under the previous wrap. So 5 winds is great. It's like in the Wild West movies when they would come up to the saloon, get off their horse, and wrap the horse's reins around the post. That's what keeps the horse from getting away. Well, that's what keeps your strings from pulling flat when you tune it, is several wraps around the post. And 5 wraps, that'll hold the string even though it's a slippy high string, an unwound string. And all with no goofy knots that we have to deal with next time we take the strings off. We're down to just the last string. The high E string. We make our bend in the high E string. There it is. We put it in the hole and we put it so that the groove side of the pin is lined up with the string. We gently pop the pin into the hole. We feel it hit the tip of the pin hit the barrel of the string. I can feel that. So I just jiggle it a little bit, and sure enough, you feel it pull up a 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch higher. That means the barrel has nestled into the groove of the pin. And you can just push the pin down, and now you can run your string up. Now we're going to come from the inside to the outside. So I look for the hole here just by taking the tip of the string like a pin and looking for the hole, which I easily found. How's that? Okay, so now I have my 6 inches or so, and I'm holding on to the side of the part of the string I'm going to keep, and the other part I'm going to cut off with 2 separate hands. I come in with my thumb and first finger. I want to apply pressure with the first finger. 1, 2, 3, boom, just like that. And we have our 90-degree bends on each side of the post. Okay, so now I'm gonna use the thumb to hold up the slack and this finger to guide the string around the post. See what I just did? I was back too far. I went up a little closer. See, the real important thing is guiding the string around the post. So here's my handy dandy. Under, under, under. Each time the hole comes around, you want to go under. Under. Okay, now I'm going to stop. I'm going to come in with my fingernail and just pull the bottom of the wind up. And that clears the way for another wind or 2. Under. I just went even closer with my finger towards the end to guarantee that this last wind gets under the other wind. You don't want the last wind to go over the wind before it. You want it to go under it. Okay, now I got to get my fingers out of there. Now this guitar, again, I showed you how the nut just pops out. So I just want to make sure that it's seated correctly and not crooked. You can tell just by the line of the fretboard matching the line of the strings. That's perfect. So now all 6 strings are installed on the guitar. I go back and I check all 6 bridge pins. Again, not too much pressure. You're not trying to put your hand through the guitar. You just want to gently give it a little push, a little nudge, with the tip of the finger. But you'll quickly see that they're seated perfectly. They're fine. Okay, so now comes the time to de-Brombergize this guitar. And I refer to famous guitarist David Bromberg, who made a career out of playing his guitar like this. All right, so we don't like that. That's very bad. So we're going to take all 6 strings in our hand like this. We're going to take our string clippers And for the first time today, well, on these strings at least, we're going to actually use them to clip the strings. Now we take the clippers and we gently lay the edge, one of the edges or the other, on the string and follow it till you get to the post. Did you hear that? I found the post. Now, making sure that there's nothing else in between the teeth of the clippers, like, for example, an adjacent string. No, and once I'm happy that I have only one string in between the clippers, I squeeze. Okay, now the same thing here. I want to follow the string to the post so I can get as close as possible. Here we go. I'm doing that on purpose, by the way, banging it so you can hear it. You don't have to do that at home to your precious guitar. Okay, same thing to every string. You want to get all the way up, close as you can to the post. Watch out you don't stab yourself. You're gonna. Someday, sooner or later. When I was a kid, I would change my strings in the kitchen, and in the middle of the night, my father would get up to go pee, and he would step on one of these nasty, gnarly little clipped ends of strings. And it used to make him very angry man. All right, so I'll just toss those. Now, what do we got? We have the finished clip job where all the strings have been clipped down to just a little bitty tip sticking out. Okay, so now comes the time to actually tune the guitar. So we're not going to need any of these tools, but we will need this. Now we have our tuner. You have your electronic tuner, your snark or whatever, so we turn that on. And we pop this on the headstock. And now we're going to tune up. We want an E string. So we slowly turn up until we see an E on the screen. There's our E. We go to the middle line on the tuner, right in the middle of the gauge, which means perfect E. Now we go, same thing for the A. Now we do the same thing for the D. You just pluck the string and turn the string winder. I went too far. There's my D. And doesn't hurt to come back and just check your pins a little. Now I'm on the other side, I need a G. There's my G. I thought I heard the pin. I did. I went back and pressed it. It was a little bit. Okay, now I need a B. So I hit the B string and I turn the peg winder till I get a B. I went past it. There's my B. Okay, now I just need an E. There's my E. Okay, I went past it a little. Okay, so now I leave the tuner on there. Here's the strings now tuned to pitch. Not precision tuned yet, but now they're tuned to pitch. And for one last time, we're going to just check our pins. Okay, and everything's good. Guitar has been restrung and it's been tuned to pitch and the extra strings have been cut off and we're almost done. But there is still an important part left to be done, and that is stretching the strings and retuning the strings. You see, most people say, well, gee, I put new strings on the guitar and now it won't stay in tune. Well, that's because strings are elastic when they're new. You put them on the guitar, and even if you do it really well with really close winds with no slack and things like that, even if it's perfect, the strings, when you tighten them, are still going to want to loosen. They're still going to want to, let out some slack, and there is a little bit of elasticity in the new strings. So we have to take that out if we don't want it to find its way out by going out of tune. So what we do is we tuned almost, to pitch, not specifically because we don't care. Now we're going to take our thumb and first finger, press in opposite directions on the string, gently, enough to give it a good tug, but not enough to break the string or anything like that. So this is something you might want to get an acquired taste for. Now we've left the tuner on. We had it tuned to E. I just did my squeezes, 3, 4, 5, 6 squeezes gently. Now I look at my tuner, I hit the string. Now it's down to D. So D is below E. So I was tuned to E. I squeezed my string and it pulled it all the way down to D. That's 2 frets lower. You would have had to eaten that in tuning over and over again if you hadn't have done it with your thumb and first finger. So I tune back up to E. Am I done? No. Now I go back and do it again. Same string, thumb and first finger. Tug, 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 tug. Now I hit the string, look at the tuner. Now it's D sharp. Okay, so it went from E to D sharp, half as far as last time. So that shows you you're making progress. So you tune the D sharp up to E. Are you done? No. Now you do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tugs, say. Now I hit the string and it's still E, but it's off the middle line a little bit. So it went out even less, but that's a good sign. It's just what I'm looking for. So now I tune it back up to E again. So 3 times per string is about right. You might have to go 4 times, if after we finish with this part, we're going to still have to tune the guitar several times before it's really going to be ready to be played. So now I go to the A string. It was A. I'm going to tug, first finger and thumb. Now I hit the string, I'm down to G sharp. So I tune up to A. Now I go back, finger and thumb, tug, tug, tug. Again, I'm either pushing down and pulling up, or I'm pushing left and pushing right, whatever. It's opposing directions with the thumb and first finger. Now I'm still on A, but it's just off the center line. So that didn't go out much, that's good. So now the D. D. Okay, now I do my thumb and first finger. 6, 7 times. Wow, stayed D, just went flat a little, so okay, I pull it back up. Only had to do the D once. Now the G. I come around, make that a G. Okay, now I do my thumb and first finger. And it stays G, but just goes flat, so that's good. That means that there wasn't a lot of slack in the string. That means there was no slack in the winds. So now our G is good. We did G with just one bend. Bend step. Now the B string, we give it some bends. That went pretty low. So we'll come back to B. Now I'll do it again, second time. Just a little that time. Now it's perfect. So we did the B on just 2 tries. Now the E. And we try it again. Bending a little bit. And it's only slightly flat, which means it hardly went out at all. Okay, so now we're ready to tune the guitar with precision. So far have only been doing it just to tighten the strings. Now we're ready to actually tune the guitar for playing. When you've got a new set of strings on your guitar, they're still relatively new, that whole first week. So it's always a good idea every subsequent day when you pick up your guitar, give all 6 a tug between the thumb and the first finger. Okay, before you tune. That way, if there's any extra slack in the string, you'll uncover it and eliminate it through tuning. Here's my E. Again, I'm looking at the tuner here. Here's my A. Here's my D. My G. The B. The E. Okay, now here's all 6. Now the guitar has been restrung and the strings have been stretched and retuned many, many times, and the guitar is ready to be enjoyed. Now you know how to change your own strings. If you have to ruin 3 or 4 sets of strings learning to do this, it is well worth it, because 3 or 4 sets of strings will cost you a lot less than hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of paying a music store to change the strings for you, which is just silly when you can do it yourself and get to be an expert at it with just a few tries. So enjoy playing in tune, enjoy changing your strings, change them often. With acoustics, you should be changing your strings 12 times a year. If you don't play that much, 6 times a year. If you play gigs, every time. So if I'm playing a gig, I put a new set of strings on for every gig. If I'm not playing, I put a new set of strings on every 2 or 3 weeks, a month at the most. And, you know, if I was just someone who only played once in a while, I'd still want a new set of strings at least with every new season. When you put new strings on, the guitar returns to the beautiful, full, rich tone with rich bass, bright trebles, excellent volume, plus it feels great under your fingers. The coating on the strings feels nice and soft. The strings are clean. It's a clean experience if you've already cleaned your guitar while you were changing the strings. It's so much nicer now with the brand new strings on it. So that's why whenever it starts to get dirty or rusty or dead sounding, it's definitely time to change your strings, and you're going to be an expert at it. So now you can change your strings liberally and always enjoy great tone and great feel.